Okay, well, hello. Welcome then. I'm Janine.
My name is Josh Hunking, and we're talking about how to fix the world.
All right, so if you haven't seen video one, go watch video one. It'll make more sense. We started off on chapter 1 of his book, How to Fix the World, and basically I was just going through his book and writing down any questions I had upon reading each chapter. We're still in chapter 1. We are 6 questions deep, so let's get started with 7.
Let's do it.
All right, question 10. What implications might the adoption of the proposed approach have on the way we approach and solve public policy issues at both local and national levels?
I think the impact would be the same on either of them. Basically, you're going to get a slate of ideas that are produced where the people who are democratically elected would then have the ability to say, yeah, that's a good idea, or no, that's a bad idea. And so the incentive is to create the idea that you can sell to your government by having it be the best idea and being able to prove that it's the best idea. And so the impact on state and local and national is not going to be any different. It wouldn't be any different for like the country of China or Israel or anything like that. The impact is always going to be the same. It's here's a slate of ideas that can potentially be used to solve your problems. I'll sell them to you.
Okay. You argue that not all problems require new ideas as solutions. Can you provide examples of problems where existing solutions are readily available?
Did this seriously not get recorded when we had this conversation yesterday?
It did, but again, we're just going to refilm it. Try again.
Okay, we're going to try again. Well, now that you know what the idea is...
what's the idea?
The idea of this, I mean, blanket is an idea, right? So you got a pen and drill in there. Why don't you tell me, what do you think an example is of some problem that doesn't need an idea as a solution?
Well, people argue that homelessness, you just need to build more houses. That's not an idea, that's a product.
Okay, here's the problem with that idea. There's a man who is currently dead who used to live in Corvallis. He was a nice enough guy. He was an Army vet. He was also schizophrenic. His sister was very nice, and she did what she could to take care of him. She was able to help him out and make sure that he had a house. He had a house. It was a trailer near Corvallis for about a year until it got so cluttered, and because of its inability to take care of himself and to take care of the world around him, his generalized incompetence, he burned the thing down. So yeah, you can build the man a new house and put him in a new house, but it doesn't actually solve your issue. He ended up living on the streets because he burned his house down.
Well, do you think it's fair to apply that situation in all cases?
I don't think it's fair to say that in all cases, building houses is going to solve the problem.
Not all, but I'm sure some they would, don't you
Maybe,
think?
but the reason I gave you that example is because it's an example of just building more houses didn't work for that guy. I can give you an example of another guy chilling here in town. He was a logger for a long time, seems like a nice enough guy. I can't tell the difference. He's got like a bump on his head, and I don't know if he was hit in the head later on in life or if he just drank a lot over the course of his life. But what I can tell you is that that guy could have a place to live, paid for by the government, if he would remember that he had a place to live. He just forgets. In the course of representing him, I would talk to him, and he's tracking what's going on, and then 2-3 hours later I can come back and say, hey, how you doing? And his response is, who are you? And so he just doesn't remember to go home. He got in trouble. One of the times he got in trouble, he was banging on the jail door. Let me in, let me in. Because he wanted to stay in the jail that night because he didn't want to sleep on the streets. He kept getting in trouble for trespassing at the emergency room at the hospital. The man would have had a place to live if he would remember that he had a place to live. And he would just go home. The problem is not whether he has a place to live or not. The problem is the human not understanding that they have a place to live. Go to your house.
Okay, I don't know. I just feel like these cases are far and few in between.
Potentially, but I think the people that are out actually living on your streets are far and few. I don't think they're normal, average, regular folk that are out there. They've got a level of incompetence for varying reasons about them that prevent them from making choices that get them into houses.
Like mental illness.
That's one.
Couldn't you just provide medicine?
Maybe for those people that mental illness is the problem. For the people who drugs is the problem, if they don't want to get clean, you're not going to get them clean. One of the other clients I had, she was very clear. I just want to live in a tent on the side of the road and do meth. That's it. I just want everybody to leave me alone. I just want to live on the side of the road and do meth. That was all she wanted out of her life. She was not in a position where she wanted a house. Whether you gave her one or not, she might have lived in it for a little while. But if you said, you got to stop using meth if you want to live in this house, she would say, no, I'll live in a tent. Because she just wants to live on the side of the road and do meth. She just wants to be free. Some of the we've been through this before, but I don't think we've been through it on camera, right? I mean, we went out and did the interviews, which this was annoyingly surprising.
Mm-hmm.
We went out and decided we need to figure out what's going on with homeless people in the city of Corvallis. And so we just sent a guy, go interview these people, go talk to these people and figure out who the heck they are and what the heck they're doing there, to build a bit of a database to be able to understand in generalized terms why these people are out there, who the heck they are and why they're there. We do point-in-time counts once a year. Usually I think it's in January, to try to just estimate the number of people that are living on the streets. It's okay, but it changes. It fluctuates up and down. And then there was a study done. There's a corridor between like Portland and Hillsborough where the local transit authority, one very smart guy out there, decided he was going to go out and talk to the people on that corridor. So he got about 120 interviews done. I think we got like 180 done. Those are the only two instances of that ever occurring that we were ever able to find. There may be other databases out there, but I don't think that there are. What he was specifically looking for up there is, are these people local? Or are they being trucked in from like Florida and Texas and stuff like that? Or are these just local people who are now living on the side of the road in this corridor, meaning that if they're local people, the implication is we need to do something to take care of them. They found the vast majority were local people, but that was the focus of what they were doing. We were way more general than that. We're just, who the heck are you? What the heck are you doing here? We got a pie that I would have to pull the data up to show you the actual pie, but there are a lot of different reasons why people live on the streets. And the two that you are not pulling off the streets, no matter how many houses you build, the two types of people we have classified as the happy hippie. The happy hippie has a pension and money in the bank, and they are perfectly competent to take care of themselves. But their motivation is to have the lowest impact on this planet that they possibly can. So they live with nothing but a backpack and a tent so that they don't feed into the capitalist system that's destroying the environment. They don't want a house. They don't want to live in a house. Those people really aren't a problem for your society. They're able to be competent in doing what they want to do, and they're really causing a bunch of problems. The other group of people that you will never get off the streets are the disillusioned veterans. I'm not allowed to swear on this, am I?
You can.
I don't think I can.
I'll bleep it out.
Oh, good. All right. If you bleep it out, that's fine. The disillusioned veterans, those folks are probably going to die out before we ever solve that problem. These guys, here's the life experience. There are at least two of them in the city of Corvallis. There's probably more, like four, but we found at least two in the city of Corvallis. And here's their life story. They were born in the 50s or the 60s, drafted into the Vietnam War in the 70s. So their country said, hey there, young man, we're going to force you to go to war. So they sent them to a war, traumatized them, exposed them to drugs, and then when they came back, they were told, you're baby killers, you're terrible people for going out and doing this thing. So they came back, and by the time the 70s hit, they were addicted to drugs, and their perspective was, fuck this society, I'm out. If this is the way that this works, I'm done. This is, I refuse to participate in this world. This is garbage. I won't support this for another second. Because you are killing people and destroying lives, and you don't even care. And they're not wrong in what their perspective is. The number of them are very small. It's 1% of the people that are living on the streets. But I don't care how many houses you build. You ain't getting that guy back into society. He gave up long ago on society with good reason for why he gave up on supporting this society. Or even
Doesn't want to be helped.
No, he does not want any part of American society. The guy who fits into that category wants nothing to do with American society, because of the American society from their vantage point is terrible. Yeah. And then there's other big groups of people that are out there, right? I mean, if you take the group that is self-report, domestic violence is why they're on the streets. They're mentally ill by self-report or drug addicted by self-report. And those two, it's kind of hard to tell the difference because they're chicken and the egg syndrome going on kind of with that. If you're mentally ill, you use the drugs to deal with a mental illness, which, well, maybe now you got a drug addiction going on, and drug addiction can cause mental illness or make it look like mental illness or create psychotic breaks. So those two kind of go hand in hand. Those three categories are the vast majority of the people that are out there, probably 60-70% of the people who are out there. And those folks in that category, we had to try to find a common thread among those people. And the common thread among those people is that they believe that the problem they are facing is so insurmountable that there's no way that they're going to be able to accomplish it. So most of the people who would self-report as drug addicts would say, I would love to stop doing drugs, but I can't. It's not possible. And they had given up hope that they could ever not be drug addicts. So I mean, that's the thing. They believe that their problems are insurmountable. They can never get past the problems that they're facing, so they're hopeless. They have given up, and that's why they're in that position. Because there are so many people living on the streets, you get 15 to a 20% chunk of people who are actively avoiding the law. Those are people with warrants, and they know they have warrants for their arrest, or people who would never be able to hang out next to a children's park if the government knew what they were doing at that children's park.
Yeah.
And they are intentionally hiding within the homeless population because it's a place where they can hide and nobody can find them. That group of people, if you clear the rest of the homeless people, they'll leave the streets. But their motivation for living on the streets is not because there isn't a house. It's because if they live in a house, the government knows where they are, and then they get called on their warrant, or they get charged with a crime for the stuff that they do. If we're in a position where we need to go lock that door, I'm going to do that.
They seem harmless.
Well, don't judge a book by its cover. Be right back. Actually, you should answer your own questions, or say the next question, or say whatever you want.
Well, see, you raise a good point about there being a certain percentage of people who don't want help, but if intellectual property can't be applied to them or to help them out of the situation, then does that kind of undermine its effectiveness if it can't even help them? Or are you saying it can't help them because they don't want to be helped?
No. I'm not saying that it can't help them because they don't want to be helped. I'm saying you can't cure cancer with leeches. You don't understand the problem. And if you don't understand the problem, you can't craft a solution that's going to be effective. You have to understand the problem first. You can't build an airplane unless you know how to fly.
Okay.
Yep, that's the problem. Yeah, and that's the problem, right? Is we jump from A to B, right? Or well, A to G is probably a better thing. We jump from, just build more houses for these people. That assumes that you understand that the reason they don't live in houses is because there aren't enough houses for them to live in. You don't know why they're not living in houses, and because you don't have that piece of information, you don't know what the solution is.
I feel like there are so many studies out there where they go and interview homeless people of different walks of life. So I wonder how come that no one has come to find why the heart of the problem, why they're on the street, why it's like a cycle. It's almost like once you get out there, you never get out. It's just, you might have temporary housing, but you always end up back there. So I wonder what that disconnect is.
Maybe. What we should do is, if you are aware of studies where people have interviewed a large group of homeless people and tried to just talk to them and see what's going on with them, identify that, bring that to the forefront, bring that to me. I'd like to take a look at that because we can incorporate that into our potential solutions for the homeless problem, which is separate from this piece here.
Yeah. Well, I showed you a YouTube video once where I think they had the answer to homelessness, and you had watched it and you were like, yeah, no, wrong. So what's wrong with their studies?
What you would have to do is pull it up and we can parse it out bit by bit. It's likely, what I remember of that is the same exact problem of jumping from A to G. That's what I remember the problem being. Well, it's a lack of an understanding, right? If any generalization for this is why people are homeless, they're all lazy, they're all drug addicts. It's just not right. And that's why I think a problem specifically like homelessness that is difficult to solve is because there's not a clean answer that anybody is aware of for a common thread that is the source of why they're all in the same position. And I think the common thread exists. I just don't. You have to look at it. You have to study it. You have to look at it precisely to be able to understand what the common thread is. And so that's the problem. Is believing that well, look, my cousin Jerry, he was sick and we gave him a Kellogg bar and he just perked right up. Or, John, we just prayed for him and he came out of the same thing. Oh gosh. Now you're talking about anecdotal knowledge, right? It's what I've seen before. Anecdotal knowledge is good knowledge in certain circumstances, meaning like the 800s. But when you have the IP system that can generate a lot better knowledge, you should use the system that generates a lot better knowledge than just the anecdotal knowledge.
Anecdotal knowledge, like common sense, or things learned over time through what, experience?
Yeah, through experience. Experiential knowledge is another way to say it, yeah.
Okay.
I saw, the solution to my conflict that I had with my sister was I brought her roses, and that perked her right up, and she was totally happy, and everything was good and hunky-dory after that. Well, that may have worked in that circumstance, but that doesn't mean that every conflict with every sister is going to be solved with a thing of flowers.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem with anecdotal knowledge.
It's not universal.
It's not as precise.
Okay. You had also said that homelessness, some people write it off as, oh, they're addicted to drugs.
Some people do.
But what about people who kind of credit that to the government? Like, they're not doing their job. Inflation, things are too expensive, rent's going up.
Maybe they're right, but it's also irrelevant unless you can show this is what it is that's going to actually get these people off the streets.
Okay.
It may be correct. It could be aliens, right? It could be stuff in the water. Had a guy up at Marion County today tell me all about how 5G and 10G were ruining our minds. And there was a guy over at the Newport courthouse just 2 days ago about how stop spraying cancer, and he had like a picture of a helicopter. He's out there with a really strong opinion. And it could be that helicopters spraying stuff into the air is what's causing people to get cancer. It might be. But I don't think he knows that, and I don't think he can know that with anecdotal knowledge. But I think you could know it with a study.
Do you think that there are some notions out there that we, as a mass group of people, have kind of accepted, but it's just anecdotal knowledge at the end of the day? You think a superstition could be?
Yes.
Yeah?
I think, if I understand your question correctly, I think that a good example of that is, if I sneeze, what do you say?
Bless you.
Exactly. If you look at that at its core, we looked here, almost every culture says bless you in response to a sneeze. Some cultures respond in their language with something to the effect of health. There was one African tribe that had some different response, but it's almost always that. Bless you or health. So, thinking it through, why in the world would you say bless you? You would say bless you because when you come up with that common language in response to a sneeze, I don't understand how germs work. And because I don't understand how germs work, I'm saying bless you, really saying I hope you get better. The way that I think I'm going to make you better is to bless you, because I believe the way you're going to get better is God's going to make you better.
Okay. I thought people say bless you because there's this notion that your heart stops when you sneeze. Like, it stops beating for a second.
Yeah, but why would a blessing help you?
Oh, yeah. I'm saying that's
across all cultures. It's because God will fix it, because I don't understand how germs work or how a heart works or how sneeze works. So I'm saying bless you, and we've all sort of accepted that. Here in this office, Alyssa and I say, live long and prosper. Because that's the sentiment, right? I hope you're okay, is what I'm really trying to say to you. And if there's something I can do to try to make your life better, I would like to be able to make your life better. And I'm saying it in the form of bless you.
That's the same thing, isn't it?
What?
Live long and prosper?
It is, but it takes away I don't want to say bunk, because I can't guarantee that it's not correct. But the unlikely possibility that if I just put it in God's hands, that your cancer will go away. That's what I'm saying. You take away that layer of what I think is an improper thought process, that if you're sick, don't take antibiotics. I will just say bless you and say a prayer for you, and you're going to be fine. I guess I don't know. I don't know the right answer on that, to be honest with you. But I think about it maybe in terms of a broken leg. Maybe that's a little bit more clear, where I look at a broken leg and I think, if I just say bless you to the guy with the broken leg, maybe it'll get fixed. But it'll more likely get fixed if I take him to a hospital and doctor resets the leg and, gives him a thing of antibiotics to fix the leg. That the cause and effect on it is not as simple as, well, I don't understand how broken legs work, so I'll say a prayer for you. I wish you good luck. I hope your leg gets better. And so that layer of that thought process, I think, is an incorrect piece to that thought process, because it misunderstands cause and effect. And so removing that, live long and prosper.
I can see why that was a thing back then when science wasn't at its peak, but now why do you think that's still a thing when so many people do rely on science? Because
of your original question, right? Your original question was, are there things that we take as anecdotal and common knowledge and we still believe them even though they're incorrect? That's why. That's why. I don't think people now think bless you means that I'm actually saying a prayer for you and I hope that you get better. I really would also say, bless you, maybe you should go to a doctor about that. Like, I don't know that I actually believe that, or most people believe that still anymore. But it's residual, it's there, it's still part of human language, and people don't think their way through it and think, oh my gosh, maybe that's not a correct thought process that we should be using to solve this problem.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That's a good example.
Good.
All right, next question. Why do you believe the approach of the American Founding Fathers in making public policy was reasonably effective?
In the 1790s, I think it was the best they had. Right? I mean, they're talking about, all right, we're going to kill the king, and after kill the British government, not literally the king, but we're getting rid of this monarch thing. We got a couple of different choices, and from their vantage point, right, we just risked our lives and our families' lives and our property and everything, just for the possible notion that maybe we don't have to live under the rule of the king. That's a heck of a thing to do, to risk your life and we're out of time.